I'm going to demonstrate what the video recorded responses look like when you do your oral responses, and I'll go over a couple of tips before we jump into the demo. So the first thing to know is just the organization of how the video recorded responses are going to go. So you're going to have a total of 5 to 6 questions with a 2-minute timer to respond to each question. So for each of the questions, you'll follow the following steps. So the first thing is you'll watch a short video of one of our special education program faculty asking you the question, and then the question will also be written so that you can refer back to it as often as you need to. You'll have 30 seconds to process and think through your response. So as soon as the faculty are done with their question, you're going to see a timer show up, but that is just your processing time. So nothing is being recorded yet. If you don't need that time and you want to jump straight into the question, then you can just skip it and stop it and move and go into your 2-minute response. But the 30-second pause processing time is for you to kind of think about the question and maybe think of 1 or 2 things that you really want to say to answer the question. Another thing to know is that you'll only get 1 chance to respond to each question. So it's kind of like how it would be in a live interview. You hear the question, you respond to it, and you move on. You will have those 2 minutes, but again, if you don't need the full 2 minutes and you finish responding to the question earlier, then you can go ahead and stop and move forward. So one nice thing about it is, let's say something you can't do all of it all in one sitting. You can definitely take a break at any point throughout this entire Vidcruiter process, as long as you haven't seen the question or the writing prompt. So it'll always say, are you ready to move on to the next question? And if you're not and you want to take a break, you can actually stop. You can log out of the system, you can log back in, it'll bring you back to where you had left off, and then you can start again. So at any point in time, if you feel like you need a break, feel free to do so. Just make sure that you remember your login information so that you don't have to do it all over again. And then just some tips before you get started. Take advantage of that 30-second processing time to make sure that you understand the question and you have a very specific answer to it, because again, you only have 2 minutes, so you don't want to kind of draw out your answer and then it cuts you off. Treat it like a real interview in the sense of, when you're responding, try and imagine that you are responding to one of our faculty members. Try as much as possible, make eye contact with the camera that you're using on your device. Share stories the way you normally would, smile, and just remember that even if it's not perfect, that it doesn't need to be, because we know that you're not able to re-record it. And again, remember that you do have control to navigate through the questions, which means you can stop and move to the next question whenever you're ready. You don't have to sit there and try to fill up the entire 2 minutes. So let me go ahead and show you, well, what does this actually look like? So I'm logged into my account that I had created for the demo for how you set up. And this is where we left off, and it's just basically confirming that you did all the prep work you needed to get in. So once you're ready to go to the actual questions, you'll push Save and Next. And here we are, question 1. Now again, these are mock questions, so they are not the actual questions inside our program interviews, but we're doing this just to kind of give you an example of what it will look like. So remember, you have 1 attempt, 2 minutes, and you can't kind of refresh your page or go back, otherwise it will mess up your response. So once you're ready, go ahead and push Open Recorder. Okay, so you see the countdown. The countdown is for the question.
Please introduce yourself.
So that was the faculty member who is asking the question, and then you see that the response is still here at the bottom, and it'll be there the entire time. So you don't have to worry about forgetting what the question was. So right now at the top, this blue bar is showing that 30 seconds of processing time, your preparation time. So introducing myself. Okay, what am I going to say? I'm going to talk about, I'll choose to talk about my education and when I came to Hawaii. Okay, so when you're ready, you can push start anytime. Otherwise, it'll start as soon as the timer is up. So, Hi, my name is Janet Kim. I'm the Special Education Recruitment Specialist at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and my job is to support those who are interested in pursuing any of our programs. Okay, so I push stop as soon as I'm done. I didn't need the full 2 minutes, and you can see that it's done. It kind of just disappears, and don't worry, that's how it goes. So now I just move on to the next question. Okay, question 2, same directions. All of this will not change. So when you're ready, go to the next one. Okay, so I'm waiting for the question from the faculty.
Why are we using video recorded responses?
Okay, here's my 30-second prep time. This time I'm going to be like, you know what? I know this one. I'm just going to answer it. So wait for the countdown. Okay, so why are we using video recorded responses? I actually have a whole separate video made for the rationale for why we did it, but just to summarize, it was really about our context being that we are in Hawaii and a lot of our applicants are spread out across all the different islands. It's also about the diversity of our applicants, so we have a lot of people who are trying to balance working full-time, coming back to school, raising families. They're very, very busy people, and it's really hard to coordinate face-to-face interviews when our faculty teach during the evenings, and yet a lot of our applicants are working during the day. So we needed to find a more convenient way to get the interview done without having to deal with all these complications in scheduling. And then the last reason was that it's more efficient. We used to do the interviews after applications were submitted. It would take a long time to coordinate, to meet, to actually do the interview, to process, and it was making it our admissions decisions go all the way until May, sometimes even early June, depending on whether it was fall or spring. And so we just knew that that was a really long time and people wanted to know their admissions decisions a lot earlier. So we learned about this Vidcruiter platform and we tested it out, and after we piloted it, did some research, got some feedback, did some interviews with applicants, we realized that this is a good tool for us and that we've been using it ever since. So we started it in 2017 and we continue to use it because we do feel that it's an effective method. Okay, so I pushed stop because I had responded. And it's gone, and now I can go to my third one. So now let's say I'm tired, I want to take a little break. I can, because I have not started the next question. So this is a time where you're allowed to pause, or let's say you're worried about something, you're having technical difficulties, you can always message them using their 24-hour support. So okay, maybe I went to grab some water and I came back. No problem. So now I'm ready to go to the next question. Okay, so here's question 3, same exact process.
How are the video recorded responses evaluated?
Okay, so again, processing time. If you don't need it, I'll push start. So one of the benefits of using the video recorded responses is that our evaluations are done a little bit differently, and we found that it's more equitable and it's more fair because what happens is the system collects all the video interviews and then we can assign them to different faculty members who review it on their own time so that they can't basically persuade the other faculty member based on how they feel about it. So everyone just watches the interviews, does their ratings. Now, for a very large percentage of applicants, both faculty members say yes, and then it's good. We can mark it as an admit and move on with the rest of the application process and review. Every once in a while, maybe one of our faculty members will say yes, and then maybe one of our faculty members will say, no, I don't think they're a good fit. And what we can now do because of this platform is we can assign a third faculty member who doesn't know that a third faculty member. And so they review it, again, unbiased, not having any kind of influence from anybody else. And then they can also make a decision, and then they would be a tiebreaker. And so what we found is that having this evaluation system is actually more fair. because it's like, let's say you get that one faculty member who's a little bit harder than the others, then that would be unfair in some circumstances. But now we can always throw on a new reviewer. And so with that, when we did our first pilot study, we actually saw that even though it still didn't happen very much, there was an increase in the number of people who were passing their interviews. So it did raise our pass rates. It did not hurt them. Okay, moving on. So you can kind of see, you'll get used to it. Hopefully it'll get easier as you go through. So here's question 4.
What are some tips and tricks to successfully completing the video recorded responses?
Okay, I'll go ahead and start recording. Okay, so some tips and tricks to successfully complete the video recorded responses would be to have maybe a notebook where you're jotting down 1 or 2 things that you feel will better answer the prompt. Because again, 2 minutes, so you can't really talk about a lot of different examples. So try to kind of narrow it down, and then you can refer back to it if you finish your first thought and want to go on to the second thing that you had thought of. Another thing is definitely look behind you, set the stage, make sure that you're dressed appropriately, that you have nothing distracting in the background. I actually have my laptop propped up on a bunch of books so that the camera is closer to my eye level, like that. Otherwise you have these kind of like weird angles. Honestly, the biggest tip and trick is to really try and view it as a good opportunity for our faculty to get to know you. So share those personal stories, be natural, honest, and really capture why you are going into these programs and what you're really interested in doing, because sometimes that's harder to convey on paper. And so this is really just another opportunity to showcase different parts of you, so that our faculty can make a more holistic decision for your application. So treat it as if you were in a real interview, and just be yourself. And if I haven't demonstrated it yet, but let's say this is a pretty heated topic, something I'm very passionate about, and I just want to talk about it for a really long time and try to put in another example of why I think this is a successful tip. And then you notice that you're talking and all of a sudden your timer is going to run out and it's gone, and look. So now it's gone. So if you're still talking when the 2-minute timer runs out, it's just going to stop the video and do exactly what it's been doing every time, which means, okay, now you can go on to the next question. Don't worry, it does happen. Just don't let it happen every time, because then it shows that you're not, kind of adjusting to the system. So, but if it does happen, don't worry about it, just move on. Okay, and then for this demo, that was it. You would have that final question that is asking you, is there anything else you would like to share? But once you get to this final page, it says thank you. I'm not demoing the writing prompt in here. We'll do it in the next section of our presentation. But again, if you did run into any questions or you need help, you can email us at spedappointment@hawaii.edu, or you can send a message directly to the Vidcruiter platform. Okay, so hopefully that helps, and we look forward to seeing your video recorded responses.